subcommittee mark. Are there any other amendments to the subcommittee's mark? Mr. Lamborn.
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
Clerk will please pass out the amendment. Without objection, reading the amendment will be dispensed with. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Colorado for the purpose of offering and explaining his amendment.
Mr. Chairman, we have men and women in uniform who are sworn to defend and protect the United States Constitution. We have men and women at the service academies who are preparing themselves to defend and protect the United States Constitution. And yet there have been regrettable instances where these men and women have had their own constitutional rights infringed upon. Military regulations must protect freedom of religion. Recently, a controversial event took place at the United States Air Force Academy. A cadet had a Bible verse written on the whiteboard outside his room. I've seen these whiteboards at the U.S. Air Force Academy. They're about the size of this piece of paper, and yet such a small space led to a large controversy. After the cadet erased the Bible verse, an outside agitator claimed falsely to have pressured the Air Force Academy to force the erasing of that Bible verse. We need to have regulations that allow cadets and those in uniform to live out their faith without pressure to stifle or compromise their faith. And let's take away the opportunity of outsiders to interfere in the spiritual lives of our cadets and those in uniform. This amendment, Mr. Chairman, requires the Department of Defense and the Air Force to rewrite their regulations to clear up confusion, remove ambiguity, and protect constitutional rights. Air Force regulations appear to be more restrictive than those of the other service branches, so this amendment is focused on Air Force Instruction 1.1 in particular, and says it must be rewritten within 120 days of the enactment of this law, as well as the rewriting of Department of Defense instructions. Let's allow the men and women who are protecting our Constitution and putting their lives on the line to fully enjoy the religious rights contained in that same Constitution. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to address his amendment.
Is there debate on the amendment? Mr. Forbes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to first of all say that I don't know of anyone that's fought harder for religious freedom and religious liberty than Congressman Lamborn and Dr. Fleming and Trent Franks and many other people sitting in here. And I recognize the frustration that we had. We had a hearing where we even discussed many of these issues. However, I would say that the Air Force, in my opinion now, is making huge strides to try to address this problem. And I would hate for us to subject them to that old adage of no good deed goes unpunished by passing a provision like this right in the midst of why they're trying to correct some of these situations. So I would respectfully request that the gentleman consider withdrawing this amendment at this time, giving the Air Force a chance to finish doing the work it is undergoing right now, and taking a look at it for the next couple of weeks before this bill comes up before the full House, at which time, if you're not satisfied that the Air Force has addressed some of this, you can consider putting this in as an amendment at the full body. But I'm concerned that if we pass it now, it will stop some of the good work that they have been working on literally this week and last week. And so that would be my request to the gentleman. I'd be happy to yield to him.
Would the gentleman yield?
I would be happy to yield.
I have a lot of respect for the gentleman from Virginia. You're on the Judiciary Committee as well as a subcommittee chairman on this committee. You deal with this issue a lot. You are totally sincere and committed to doing the right thing. So if you are assuring all of us that the Air Force is moving forward on this and that a couple of weeks might make a difference in seeing some good progress, then I would be willing to withdraw this amendment with the option of reintroducing it in a couple of weeks when this NDAA comes to the floor if there hasn't been any progress. And I think that that would be, if that leads to the best result, which is regulations that truly protect constitutional rights, then I'm happy to go in that direction.
And let me just clarify, Mr. Chairman, for reclaiming my time. I can assure the gentleman the Air Force is working on that very diligently, I think with very good intention, and time will tell us, but certainly within the next 2 weeks, that gives you a chance to evaluate that and reach your own conclusion. But I am optimistic that they are headed in the right direction, and we have a good opportunity to fix many of these problems.
Would the chairman yield? Or the
I'll be glad to yield.
colleague yield? Mr. Chairman, I will withdraw this amendment at this time with the option of reintroducing it in a couple of weeks, but based on the assurance of Representative Forbes and in the hope of seeing progress, I would be willing to do that, make that withdrawal at this time. I yield back to the
The
colleague.
gentleman withdraws the amendment with the reservation of being able to reintroduce it at the full committee on the floor.